Hey guys, welcome to this video in which we're going to concentrate on pronunciation. Inspired by one of my students, I've had a discussion the other day and we talked about the right pronunciation of the OUGH letters together, which I think is problematic for both beginners and advanced learners as well, according to my experience. So let's dive into that today. If you look this up on the internet, you might see that there are some not so reliable sources. You can come across, this is one of the best thing I think I've found, the best website. They are trying to explain it with an alternative, another word that has a similar pronunciation and it rhymes with the word. And I think that's a really good method because they are using words that you might already know, for example. Now, hopefully by the end of the class, you'll be able to pronounce the sentence at the bottom of the page, which now might look a bit scary. So one of the things you really need to think about as a learner is to prioritize. If you're an intermediate or upper intermediate student, you might not want to know all the words in the world and spend time and energy on learning all these expressions. So what you really need to look into is to decide which word is worth learning how to pronounce. You don't really need to know how to pronounce this special lake or the town because they're not necessary that much. Of course, if you're an expert of any of these, then or any other words, then of course it's going to be of utmost importance. So let's dive into the first one, one of the most common pronunciations, which is going to be off. So we have three words: enough, tough, and rough. So notice that enough is stressed on the second part. It's pronounced enough, tough, and rough. Remember, this is a video. You could always pause it, and whenever you feel like, you could repeat it and just check if it was the right pronunciation. Let's then move on to the second bubble, which will represent a very similar sound. It's going to be the off sound, which will be only present, I think, in the word cough, which the picture illustrates as well. So off, again, cough is how you pronounce it instead of off like we saw with rough, for example. So notice the difference. We say rough, but we say cough. All right, now a quite different way to pronounce it is the ow sound, ow. So it's very similar to the word cow, the animal, or when you say wow. And we have three words a bit less frequent, so you can decide not to learn them. We have this word plow, bow, and then drought. You can look up the meanings. The important thing today, the focus is the pronunciation. And then we've got the O sound, not to be confused with ow. So we have although, we have though, and we have do as well. We're not going to concentrate on the consonant now, but do, you can see that on the picture. That's what we call a dough, like a donut. And although and though are going to be the way to go about it. So notice the difference between ow, like drought, and though, although. Okay. Then we have the fifth candidate, which is usually, I think, present in a lot of past forms, the OUGH pronunciation or OUGH cluster. We have 5 words here as examples, but I think there are much more. If you come across past, it's more likely to be pronounced ought. Bought, the past of buy. Brought, the past of bring. Fought is the past of fight, of course. Sought is the past of, well, it's a bit rarer, I think. It's not that common, but it's the past of seek. And thought is the past of think. Notice that if you know how to read the IPA, the International Phonetic Alphabet, on the top you know that the 2 little triangles, or sometimes people use a colon, they denote a long sound. Previous sound has to be long. So the O has to be long. Bought, brought, fought, sought, thought. Okay. Now, if you are managed to listen to all these and try to understand, we've got another one which is through, and I guess it's one of the only most common, or one of the frequent words that is pronounced through, not so many other ones. and it's going to be the preposition through, just simply through. Okay, so it's going to be 3 sounds, the last long, through. Now, I think we've seen enough so far, and if you feel like it's a bit too fast, then make sure you slow it down or you listen to it again and just repeat. That's all how pronunciation practice and training works. Now, let's recap a little bit. You can see these 3 words here. So we pronounce though, thought, and through, right? So though, thought, through. You might try to memorize it with another word. So though obviously rhymes with go, thought will rhyme with port in British English or sort, and then through will be the same pronunciation as true or grew, the past of grow, for example, right? Though, thought, and through. Now, we've got tough, though, thought, and through as well. So try to repeat after me. Tough, though, thought, and through. Okay, now another thing that we really need to pay attention to is sometimes you might have seen that when you practice and say, well, I can pronounce this word, I pronounce it correctly, and the teacher gives me positive feedback. But then when I speak to people, it just doesn't come out, doesn't come the same way when I concentrate on it. Now, one of the reasons it might be that you don't practice how to pronounce it in context. So once you want to practice pronouncing a word, make sure you look up the word in the dictionary, and what you could do is, for example, you could check the sample sentences and see how you pronounce the word itself, not in isolation only, but in context, in a sentence. So try to pronounce these expressions as well with me. I'll try to leave some time. If it's not enough, you could always pause it, go back. You know, this is a video. That's the benefit of a video. The surface was rough behind my back. The surface was rough behind my back. I struggled and fought like hell. I struggled and fought like hell. Then the third one. Others have argued that these periods of drought are not abnormal. So others have argued that these periods of droughts are not abnormal. And then the last one, his clothes, though old and worn, looked clean and of good quality. His clothes, though old and worn, looked clean and of good quality. Okay, you can always come back and repeat the same expressions. So, after the recap, we've got 2 more left, and then we'll have a whole review of everything else. Now, the 6th one is present in British English. We pronounce borough and we pronounce thorough. So, borough is a part of a city like London, 32 boroughs, if I'm not mistaken. And thorough is going to be a person who pays a lot of attention to details, like this girl in the picture as well. So you could thoroughly enjoy something as well, which is the synonym of completely. So the pronunciation we're going to concentrate on is borough and thorough. So thorough, borough. Okay. What I was going to say is that it's really important in American English. They have these words, but they don't pronounce them the same way. And the entire video is dedicated to pronouncing these words according to the British pronunciation, or standard British English. Let's just say that, because British English is a little bit controversial. We'll have a video on that as well. Now, up is one of the probably rarest, because we've got one word. It's a weird spelling here in English. It's pronounced hiccup. There's an American spelling which is a bit more relevant to how we pronounce it, you might think. So hiccup. It's a little sound when people make when they're drunk, for example, or, well, it's a very general sound. Not sure it was the best shot. So in order to have a look at everything that we've seen so far, if it's boring, take a break, have a sandwich, or do whatever you want, and you can come back and try to revise it. It's even better if you try to space it out a little and leave some time to well, your muscles to try to memorize how to pronounce these. Now we've got the expressions, the words that we've seen on the left, whereas on the right there is an alternative, a rhyming word, which will provide you with a more regular spelling, so you know how to pronounce the words. So enough, rough. Try to repeat after me. Cough. All right. Bow, plow, drought. Although, though, though. Right. Bought, fought, bought, fought. Remember, it's long. Sought, fought. Right. And then we have a bit less frequent pronunciations. Through. And then we have Bora and thorough. Right? And then hiccup. Hiccup. Right? It's easy to remember because it's onomatopoeic. Quite easy to recall how it's pronounced. Now it's your turn now. I'm going to leave you some time for number 1 now. And I'm going to pronounce it after so you can check. I don't have enough time for this. I don't have enough time for this. So let's see number 2. Try to pronounce it. So my version would be, Simon bought a couple of eggs the other day. Right. 3. I'll leave you some time before I say anything. Okay, so the key to a good interview is thorough preparation. This word is pronounced quite fast sometimes. And then 4. All I did last night was hiccup. Now 5. Let's give it a go. We've been through a lot lately. We've been through a lot lately. Notice where we stress as well. I know that's not the focus of today's lesson, but stress in a stress-based language like English is always important. And number 6 is going to be, it might make you cough a lot. Right. So try to pronounce the sentence below. Okay, I'm not going to tell you. This is going to be one of your tasks. If you really want to practice, you could upload it on my page. You can see some more information on the other side. So in order to improve your pronunciation in the future, you could always rewatch the video, don't forget. Practice for about 5 minutes frequently until it works. It's like a muscle work. Your mouth really has to get used to pronouncing different sounds than the ones you're used to. Make sure you watch videos all over again. There's some other videos you could check. You can see our Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram, our Patreon websites as well. And one little practice, if you really want to improve and get some feedback, is to record your voice pronouncing any of either the sentences or the last little long sentence, including all the words, and submit it on the website. You can see all the details below in the description. And I hope that you enjoyed it and you found it useful. Make sure that you follow some of our old videos as well if you're interested in more pronunciation or improving your English in general. Thank you for your attention so much and supporting us, and hope to see you in another video.